Season 2 begins with Issei waking up to find Rias in his bed, with Ozzy interrupting them, reminding them of morning training. We cut to breakfast, seeing how well the family is adapted to having 5 members. Rias discusses the board members arriving in the afternoon, due to it not being able to take place at school. Cutting to school, however, we learn that because of Issei's new status, rumours of him have been spreading like wildfire. Nevertheless, before he can say anything, he must flee to calm down his boosted gear. Cutting to Akeno calming down Issei's boosted gear, explaining that they can only temporarily quiet the thing down. However, Akeno explains how much she admires Issei, wants to make a move on him, but she still loves to tease Issei, and at the moment will not consider making a move due to Rias. However, we cut to the club meeting in Issei's house, where they discuss all the contracts they have signed, with Issei making no such progress. In the middle of the conversation, Issei's mother enters displaying images of Issei as a baby, and we cut to Kiba, who asks about the sword in the background.
Hey, Issei, this picture.
Huh? Oh, that kid lived down the street from me. Man, I can't remember that kid's name. It's been a while though.
Do you remember this sword?
No, I mean, I was 5.
I guess anything's possible, huh?
With that, Issei rides off to collect a contract and meet someone who wants to just have drinks with him. With nothing to compensate Issei with, he instead receives a painting. Rias summons Issei on the way back due to a stray devil. However, in the middle of the fight, Kiba keeps zoning out and gets distracted. However, he comes to and slashes through the devil, with Rias finishing her off. We are interrupted by Rias hitting Kiba for zoning out and asking what is wrong. He gets dismissed and walks away. When Issei approaches him, he claims he now remembers what he truly fights for, with the goal of exacting vengeance on Excalibur. We cut to Issei, Rias and Azia at home, with Rias telling us about the Holy Sword project. Where the church artificially attempted to regulate holy swords, it was regarded as a failure and Kiba barely survived the project. We cut to 2 figures in white robes in the same church of Reynaire's defeat, one of whom we recognise as Issei's childhood friend. With an ominous word from Kiba, the next scene shows Kiba running into Freed with a new holy sword. The episode opens with Kiba and Freed engaged in a fierce battle. Kiba, driven by anger and frustration, fights, uncomposed, but manages to match Freed's movements. Eventually, Freed escapes using a blinding flash of light. We cut to Issei waking up with Azia and Rias in his bed. While thinking how to take charge of the situation, Issei is interrupted by Drake, who warns him of a powerful presence nearby. Drake hints that Issei should be cautious, as he may one day face the White Dragon, a destined rival for those who wield the Red Dragon's power. With renewed determination, Issei continues his day. Meanwhile, outside the school, mysterious figures gather. Back in the club room, Azia and Issei learn that Kiba has taken a day off. Rias explains that Kiba is connected to the Holy Sword project, which aimed to create wielders of Excalibur. The project involved children subjected to brutal experiments to adapt to the sword's strength. However, it ultimately failed, resulting in the extermination of the participants. Only one child escaped, Kiba. He swore revenge before Rias saved him and turned him into a devil. Akeno interrupts, bringing a message from the student council president, 𝕎𝕒𝕟𝕒𝕒𝕒, requesting Rias' presence. The situation is described as complicated. Later, Issei, Azia and Koneko discuss recent events while heading home. Issei reflects on the reason behind everyone's decision to become a devil. At the student council, Tsubaki reveals that 2 individuals from the church, armed with holy swords, wish to meet Rias the next day. Back at home, Issei and Azia sense something strange. Upon investigating, they are greeted by 2 people, one of whom turns out to be Erina, Issei's childhood friend. Erina expresses a desire to catch up, relieving Rias, who was initially concerned about their intentions. The group decides to wait until tomorrow for further discussion. The following day, Erina and Zenobia formally introduce themselves. They explain that 6 Excalibur fragments are accounted for, 3 with the church and 3 stolen by fallen angels. Their mission is to retrieve the stolen swords and warn the devils to stay out of the conflict. Rias firmly declares that her faction would never side with fallen angels. Satisfied, Zenobia and Irina prepare to leave, but she spots 𝕦𝕤𝕒𝕒. Zenobia calls 𝕦𝕤𝕒 a witch, causing her great distress. She questions 𝕦𝕤𝕒's faith in God, even suggesting her sacrifice would grant forgiveness. Issei, angered by their words, defends 𝕦𝕤𝕒, calling her his family and refusing to let harm come to her. We then see Kiba, who joins them, declaring his long-standing desire to destroy Excalibur. As tensions rise, Rias agrees to letting them fight, and so, with Irina striking first, the battle begins. The battle intensifies as Irina charges directly at Issei, while Zenobia duels Kiba. The holy swords pose a serious threat, as even a single touch or the smallest scratch can inflict severe harm.
They're at a huge disadvantage.
Kiba can manage with speed, but Issei... Actually, that sword doesn't seem to be bothering him much.
Or at all. But that left arm is the dragon itself.
You're way too simple to be that impertinent!
Whatever that means, you're gonna regret it. Know why? Because I'm gonna make you pay hardcore. Besides, I never miss out on booze. Boost!
Kiba grows increasingly determined, showcasing his improved skills and his deep-seated hatred for Excalibur. However, Zenobia proves to be beyond his league, and Irina manages to take down Issei despite only grazing him. Ultimately, the church representatives emerge victorious. After the fight, Zenobia reveals that the target is the Gremory. With Kiba confirming Frien's involvement, he storms off. The next day, Issei, wanting to help out Kiba, discusses the situation with Saji, who initially refuses to get involved. However, Koneko convinces him otherwise, and they plan the next move. Later, Issei, Koneko and Sanji, with them wanting to try and track down Zenobia and Irina. With their difficult task ahead of them, they run into them on the street. With Issei paying for their food, they declare their interest to assist in destroying Excalibur. Zenobia reluctantly agrees, noting that Kokobel, a higher-ranking fallen angel, is likely behind the theft. With that, they go and see Kiba, who remains hesitant, but Issei reminds him of Rias' care and support, encouraging Kiba to trust in his allies. With everyone meeting to plan the search for the stolen Excaliburs, Zenobia reveals to Issei that the White Dragon Emperor has returned. While searching, they encounter Fried. Kiba immediately attacks, determined to destroy the sword, but Fried's speed makes him a challenging opponent. Issei attempts to power up Kiba, but Saji steps in, using sacred gear to hold Fried in place. With Koneko assisting Issei, Kiba receives a significant boost in power. However, another man, Valpa, appears, coaching Fried on how to better wield Excalibur. Before the group can gain the upper hand, Zenobia and Irina arrive to support Kiba, forcing Fried and Valpa to retreat. Shortly after, Rias and Sona arrive to assess the situation and discuss their next steps. Later, Irina is ambushed by Fried and pinned against a tree. Before Fried can harm her, a mysterious man orders him to keep her alive. Meanwhile, back at the club, Rias, Akino and Koneko send their familiars to search for Kiba, but instead locate an injured Irina. With Sona's reinforcements, they rescue her, only to realize Fried has been waiting for them. Fried reveals himself to be a messenger for Kokobel, who appears to confront Rias. Kokobel taunts him, declaring his intention to start another war between angels, devils, and fallen angels. He expresses disappointment that stealing Excaliburs hasn't caused more chaos, and displays the stolen swords he's collected. As Kokobel launches an attack, he announces his next target, Koha Academy. The episode ends with the group preparing to counteract and defend the school. The episode begins with the academy under a protective barrier maintained by Sona and the student council. Irina is barely holding on, while there's no such sign of Kiba or Zenobia. Sona advises Rias to involve her brother, but Akino already contacted him, and they will arrive in an hour. Until then, the group must hold off the enemy. Rias devises a plan to stall Kokobel while Issei charges up to power the others. Kokobel appears and demonstrates his strength by summoning Cerberus. Konako, Akeno and Rias attack, with Issei biding time to strike. However, a second Cerberus emerges and Konako distracts it, giving Issei more time. 𝕒𝕤𝕒𝕒𝕒 heals Konako and Issei draws its attention, but Zenobia arrives and swiftly eliminates both monsters. Issei transfers his power to Rias and Akeno, who destroys the remaining Cerberuses. Kiba finally returns protecting 𝕒𝕤𝕒𝕒. Despite their combined efforts, Kokobel proves to be too strong, and Valpa announces that Excaliburs have been fused into one. Rias and Akeno attack Kokobel, but he easily overpowers them. Kiba confronts Valpa, consumed by thoughts of his past.
I've heard about you. They said one of the subjects had escaped. The subjects we used didn't individually have enough of a particular gene required to use the holy swords. After I realized that fact, I came to a conclusion, so all I did was take out the gene from the kids who carried any of it. Then I found a way to combine and crystallize their genes. Here, why don't you take this? I no longer need it. We've gotten to the point where we can mass-produce higher quality crystals. No martyrs required.
How many lives did your blessed research cost? How many deaths did it take? I prayed and wondered, why was I the only one? Why me? It was a mistake. Someone better than me should have made it out of that nightmare.
Take us in. It's time. You don't have to be scared, even if there is no God. Though God may not be watching over us,
our hearts will forever be one.
Yes.
Recollecting with their spirits, Kiba attains newfound strength, crafting a new Holy Devil hybrid sword, his Bandsbreaker. With Zenobia joining him, they shatter the fused Excalibur. Kiba prepares to kill Valpa, but Kokobel intervenes, killing Valpa to silence him. Kokobel then challenges Issei, but Rias takes his hand, encouraging him to boost her power for one final stand. Issei transfers his boosted power to Rias, giving her strength rivaling her brother's. She launches a powerful attack, but Kokobel laughs it off. Even with Akeno's aid, they can't overpower him. Kokobel taunts Akeno, revealing her lineage as a daughter of a fallen angel. Zenobia and Kiba engage Kokobel to buy Issei more time, but their attacks barely make an impact. Kiba manages to endure Kokobel with Zenobia defending him, but Kokobel questions her loyalty, revealing a shocking truth.
I guess I am trying to start a war. There's no point in hiding it any longer. I might as well tell you the brutal truth. In the previous three-way war, God was actually killed along with the 4 great devil gates.
With everyone shook, 𝕒𝕤𝕒𝕒 asks why prayers are still answered if God is dead, and Kokobel reveals that Michael acts as God's agent, maintaining the illusion of his presence. Issei grows angry at Kokobel's motivation, but regains his composure when Rias promises him anything if he wins. Empowered by her words, Issei lands a blow on Kokobel. Before the fight concludes, the barrier shatters and a White Dragon Emperor appears, instantly injuring Kokobel. He declares that Azazel ordered Kokobel's capture and defeats him with ease. He then takes Freed as well, departing after telling Issei to grow stronger. With the battle finally over, Kiba renews his vows to Rias and the group. The next day, Zenobia formally joins Rias' peerage as her knight and enrolls in the academy. We see Arena has returned to headquarters, unaware of the truth Zenobia has withheld. The club resumes its usual activities, with the group finally returning to a sense of normality. The episode begins with Issei meeting Azazel, who reveals himself to be a fallen angel and expresses interest in Issei's boosted gear. Azazel warns Issei that he's not strong enough to face Kokobel level threats yet. He also announces that a summit between devils, angels and fallen angels will be held soon. Later, the group helps clean the school pool as thanks to the student council. Kiba thanks Issei for saving his life, but then Issei's secret gear acts up. with Drain explaining that Issei's power will react to stronger enemies. With that, Akeno helps Issei managing the situation but flirts with him, making Rias jealous. At the pool, Rias asks Issei for his opinion on her swimsuit, but Akeno teases her, intensifying the rivalry between them. Asuya, Koneko and Rias compete for Issei's attention, but with Issei wanting to get away from it all, Zenobia surprises him.
You never gave me an answer. I want to make a baby with you.
Why?
It used to be that serving God was my only dream, my every reason for living, but now things have changed and that dream is dead. I've already approached Rias for her thoughts on the matter. I decided the life I want right now is the womanly life I never thought I would have. To create life inside of me. So it must be fate that we are here alone together. It has to be God's will. Okay, let's hurry. These things take a few months to grow. You can do anything you want as long as I end up with your seed inside of me.
Issei, what is going on in here?
We cut to the clubhouse with 𝕎𝕒𝕟𝕥 visits, thanking Asuya for her role in the recent battle and formally welcoming Zenobia to Rias' peerage. He informs them for the upcoming summit, which will include leaders from all factions. Later, 𝕎𝕒𝕟𝕥 visits Issei's home and discussing Azazel's plan. He advises Issei not to dwell on Kokobill's fate. We cut to the next day, with Issei walking to school. However, he experiences another surge in his sacred gear as he encounters a mysterious stranger. With us being introduced to the white dragon named Volley, he toys with Issei after his arm acts up. Zenobia and Kiba step in, not wanting to cause a scene. Volley tells Issei that his power should be properly nurtured. When Rias arrives, Volley says he's curious about how her life will turn out, noting that those involved with dragons never have good luck. He leaves, and Rias grabs Issei's hand. Later, we see Issei in the club room reflecting on everything. With that, he compares Volley's powers to Rias's, with Dragon interrupting, stating that his power is far superior. When Issei asks about the two dragons, Jerry explains that during the war, with everyone who was forced to choose sides, the dragons refused. One day, two dragons fought over an argument, and their battle caused a truce among the three great powers. However, the dragons' rage lashed out indescribably, leading to their deaths. Their power were then divided into sacred gears, like the one Issei willed. It is now Issei's duty to confront the White Dragon Emperor. Later, Issei meets with Rias and Sona, who discuss keeping certain individuals away from the school. They reveal that there's a bigger problem. Issei, Rias, Asuya and Koneko encounter a crowd searching for a magical girl, only find out it's a cosplayer, Sona's older sister, Lady Leviathan, one of the Devil Kings. She introduces herself to Issei but causes tension with Sona. Issei encounters his and Rias' father. They head to Issei's house for a light-hearted moment. During this, Rias becomes flustered and Issei invites her to hang out in his room. They share a tender moment before Asuya interrupts. Lord Zex appears, telling Rias it's time to awaken her other bishop. Rias hesitates, explaining that the bishop's power is too dangerous, but the time has come. The group gathers at the seal containing Rias' hidden bishop. Upon opening it, they find Gasper, a half-human, half-vampire boy. Gasper is initially scared of everyone, and when Issei touches his shoulder, Gasper's power activates. Gasper's sacred gear allows him to stop anything he looks at, but due to lack of control, he had to be sealed. With that, Rias and Akeno leave to handle business with Kiba, while Zenobia and Koneko stay to train Gasper. With that, Azazel appears, asking about Volley, but shifts his focus to Gasper and Saji. Azazel explains Saji's sacred gear, the Black Dragon King, which can drain power, and advises Saji to help Gasper by absorbing excess energy. Issei contacts Rias. With that, Rias explains Gasper's backstory, that he was born to a high-class vampire father and a human mother. Facing discrimination from both the vampire and human worlds, Rias questions her abilities as a leader, but Issei reassures her. Determined to help Gasper, Issei camps outside his door, refusing to leave until Gasper comes out.
Are you scared? I mean of your sacred gear, and us for that matter. I've got a dragon in me. He's supposed to be the strongest one in the world, too. And every time I use that power, I feel like, well, like a part of me is turning into something else. It's scary as hell, but I refuse to let fear stop me.
But don't you worry about the things you care about most?
I've seen Rias cry. I never want to again. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to watch.
Oh, I've heard about that fight. I'm sorry. I was locked in here when it happened. If I'm there, though, I'll only bother everyone anyway.
You don't bother me. Not even a little.
Huh?
You're like my little brother, even though you've been a devil longer. But what's most important is that you're my friend.
You mean it?
You bet I do. Help me out. Lend me your power so we can support Rias, and I promise if anything scares you, I'll blow that sucker away.
Through bonding, Issei convinces Gasper to face his fears. Together, they come up with a playful solution, covering Gasper's eyes with a bag. Later, Issei and Asia bump into Rias and 𝕰𝕤𝕒. 𝕰𝕤𝕒 takes Issei to the shrine, where he meets Michael, the chief of the angels. Michael introduces Issei to 𝕰𝕤𝕒, the dragon-slaying sword, explains that Issei must absorb it into his left arm to enhance his sacred gear. Michael stresses the importance of utilizing the three factions to prevent further conflict. Issei accepts the sword, and Michael departs. Issei questions 𝕰𝕤𝕒 about a name he overheard, 𝕬𝕬𝕐. 𝕰𝕤𝕒 reveals that 𝕬𝕬𝕐 is her father, a fallen angel who was saved by a shrine maiden. She shows Issei her fallen angel wings, but admits she didn't tell him earlier because she feared his hatred of fallen angels. Issei assures her that she's more than her heritage, and that he values her. 𝕰𝕤𝕒, touched, cradles Issei in a lap, only for Rias to interrupt. Training resumes with Gasper, who shows slow but steady progress. Issei grows frustrated with his teaching abilities and considers finding his own teacher to better understand his sacred gear. Meanwhile, Vali and 𝕦𝕦𝕐 discuss an upcoming meeting. We cut back to Issei, who is visited by Rias and 𝕰𝕤𝕒, with 𝕰𝕤𝕒 apologising for surprising him earlier, with Rias explaining that 𝕰𝕤𝕒 explained everything. However, we quickly see them bicker over Issei, with Asia joining in too. We cut back to Vali, who is with another mysterious girl named Orpheus. We cut to the next day, where the group heads to an important summit, leaving Gasper and 𝕰𝕤𝕒 behind. During the summit, tensions rise as everyone arrives. Meanwhile, ominous figures approach Gasper and 𝕰𝕤𝕒. 𝕰𝕤𝕒 jumps up, urgently telling Gasper not to move. It turns out the attackers are humans who have tapped into devil powers, known as magicians. They are after Gasper, so 𝕰𝕤𝕒 grabs him and they flee. However, they are completely surrounded, with no escape in sight. In desperation, they find a sealed room to hide, but one magician manages to break in and seals both of them. Back at the summit, Azazel, 𝕦𝕦𝕐𝕒 and Michael discuss the intentions of the two dragons. Vali, ever the battle-hungry warrior, state that his only goal is to fight strong opponents, while Issei, in his usual manner, has his own reasons for being there. Despite their differences, both agree that peace is a necessary goal. Michael then turns to Issei, asking if he still has a question for him. Issei, after a moment's hesitation, asks why Asia was kicked out of the church. Michael responds gravely, explaining that the only system remains in place, and anything that could potentially alter it had to be removed. He asks for their forgiveness, acknowledging the harshness of the church's decision. Zenobia, speaking up, mentions that she's happy with where she is now, as is Asia. Before anything else can unfold, the entire room suddenly freezes. The ladies realise that the magicians outside are using Gasper's power to hold them, and if his powers grow further, it become uncontrollable, making everyone vulnerable. Rias quickly devises a plan to swap places with one of the rook pieces, with Issei chosen to accompany her. Vali, growing bored, decides to leave the summit and take on the witches outside. Issei and Rias are sent to find Gasper, with Azazel giving Issei 2 bracelets to help him control his power and to stabilise Gasper's ability. As they make their way toward Gasper's location, they are interrupted by another figure, another descendant of the Leviathan, who has her own agenda. She wants to initiate a revolution and take control of the world. Azazel takes it upon himself to confront her. Meanwhile, Issei and Rias arrive at the place where Gasper is being held. They urge him to use his power, and in a final act of trust, Issei cuts his hand, offering his blood to Gasper, The sacrifice allows 𝕎𝕑 to break free from his restraints, and with newfound control, he's able to fend off the magicians, halting their advance. The group readies themselves to continue the battle as they push back against the magicians. The battle rages on and everyone fights valiantly to hold their ground. Just as things seem to be out of control, 𝕎𝕑, now fully in control of his power, decides to stop the gate, returning everything to its original state. The group manages to fend off the remaining enemies. During the chaos, 𝕎𝕟 pulls out a strange weapon, claiming it to be his pet project, an artificial gear. He activates it, transforming into a fierce dragon-like form known as the Fallen Dragon. 𝕎𝕟 fighting the mysterious descendant of Leviathan, who attempts to sacrifice herself to take him down, but 𝕎𝕟, Eva the strategist, cuts off his own arm to defeat her. After that, Volley launches a sudden attack at 𝕎𝕟. Once 𝕎𝕟 questions Volley's motives, asking if he fights for Orpheus. Volley clarifies that he has no grand ambition of world domination. His sole purpose is to use his power for his own desires. It's revealed that Volley is a descendant of Lucifer, a half-blood. Volley taunts Issei, remarking on how ironic fate is. He is the strongest White Dragon Emperor ever, while Issei, even before becoming a devil, was considered weak and insignificant, saying he should try harder, and Gro suggests he might take something precious from him, like his mother and father. With that, he unleashes his balance breaker. Issei struggles against Volley. Although Issei's sword can harm him, he's still too slow and underpowered to keep up. Volley continues to mock Issei, suggesting he kill his friends to achieve a real challenge. Issei transfers all of his boosted power into his sword, striking at Volley's wings and eventually landing a hit on his core. Volley quickly recovers. Determined not to give up, Issei picks up a fragment of Volley's dragon armor. Issei begins absorbing the fragment's power, enduring excruciating pain as the vanishing dragon's power merges with his own, ultimately achieving a new form that combines the power of the red and white dragons. Realizing Issei's new strength, Volley becomes serious and warps a dimension around them. With that, 𝕎𝕟 tells Issei this.
Let me make sure this is simple so you'll understand. That power he has divides things around it in half.
Divides it?
Meaning, Rias Gremory's bust line will also become half its original size.
Huh?
Don't fuck with me!
Boost!
Rias's boobs are perfect, and I won't let you reduce them!
Wait, what?
Pure evil!
Boost!
I will never forgive you for that!
Oh no! The spite is hilarious! His power increases this much just to keep his master's chest from getting smaller.
Today has been full of surprises, but at least it's not boring.
With Issei overwhelming Volley in their battle, before the fight can conclude, a mysterious figure appears, shattering the dimensional barrier and retrieving Volley, with the battle abruptly ending. In the aftermath, Issei makes a heartfelt request to Michael, asking for Zenova and Asia to be allowed to pray once more. A wish Irina also supports. Michael agrees, granting them permission. With the pre-shooting concluded, everyone heads home. The next day, 𝕎𝕟 officially becomes a new advisor for the Occult Research Club, much to everyone's surprise. Sir Zex also instructs 𝕎𝕟 to oversee their training. 𝕎𝕟 delivers a final message from Sir Zex. All female members of the club are to move into Issei's house.
Issei! I'm here! And I swear no matter what, I'll never leave your side!
Hey, cool, thanks!
Should I just stay in the same room as Asia then?
Issei, I need to say something.
Yeah?
If you peek in my room and steal or sniff my panties, I will make you suffer.
This isn't fair!
Yeah, I know. But my big brother ordered it, so what can we do? I've got it! I'm going to demand that my brother remodel this house completely.
You what?
With the conclusion of Season 2, it's safe to say that the golden age of high school DxD has come to an end. Both seasons stayed faithful to the light novels while skillfully introducing characters throughout their run, delivering some of the series' most memorable moments, and one standout favourite of mine personally. I'll dive deeper into these characters in the future. Many of you have been asking for more anime recaps, as well as detailed breakdowns of episodes and characters. I plan to cover those soon, along with a closer look at the light novels down the line. But until the next review, I have been FearfulMilk. Thank you all so much for watching. Would you please kindly like, comment and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Until next time, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.